Welcome back to Cooking with TheDoerle. On today's episode, we're doing a request meal of meatloaf for my friend Andy Durgance. Enjoy.
Cooking with TheDoerle. Cooking with TheDoerle. Cooking with TheDoerle.
Alright, welcome back once again to Cooking with TheDoerle. As I said before, we're going to be doing a meatloaf episode tonight by request from Andy Durgance. Really simple recipe. Meatloaf is a traditional American classic, and there's a lot of things you can do with it, but I'm just going to show you how to put together the real basic meatloaf. What I have here, I'm making a big one. I've got 3 pounds of ground beef. You might just want to use 2. I've got 1 package of dry onion soup mix. I've got 3 eggs, about 3 cups of breadcrumbs. I have half of a white onion diced up really fine, and I have a large clove of garlic. I like a lot of garlic in my meals, so you might want to use less, you might want to use more, just to your taste. I've also got some kosher salt and some ketchup. Let's go ahead and get this meal put together. Alright, to make this meatloaf, the first thing we're going to do is combine everything that we're going to put into the meat together. That way it all mixes and incorporates into the meat a lot smoother, a lot easier, and you don't have to mix it down so much. We're going to start with our eggs. We've got 3 eggs here. We'll just crack them open. And then we're going to whip them just lightly, just enough to mix them all up. Break the yolk up, mix it with the white. Alright, got those in there. Little trick about eggs, never break them on top of the bowl that you're going to put them into. Always break them on a different surface. That's going to reduce the amount of eggshells that you wind up putting into them. We'll just get these mixed up and incorporated here. Doesn't have to be fully mixed. We're not trying to make a souffle here or anything. We don't want to incorporate a lot of air into it. Perfect. Next, our onions. They're going to go in. Throw those right in there. This off to the side. Throw our garlic in there. And the salt. I'm just going to put a couple of teaspoons in there. Once again, this is to taste, how much you like. The salt's just going to act as a catalyst to make all those other flavors come out really well. We'll add our 1 package of onion soup mix, the dry onion soup mix. Let's give that a little spin here. Just start mixing it up. Now the ketchup, you want, about 1/3 of a cup if you're going to do 2 pounds, so a little bit more than 1/3 of a cup. When I'm just making a quick meal for my family like this, I don't like to be too crazy about measurements. I know what we like. And that's another reason I'm making a real basic meal like this. Our food here, we don't typically eat, real loud, obnoxious flavors, and it's all pretty basic. I like to go crazy with my food sometimes, but just to make everyone else happy, I tone it down a little bit. At this point, if you're making meatloaf the way you want to make it, you might want to try adding some other things in here. Some soy sauce, some Worcestershire sauce. You could be just adding, instead of ketchup, putting marinara sauce or pizza sauce into it. There's a lot of different things that you could add in here. You could add more onions, different onions, jalapenos if you like it spicy. You could add shredded cheese to it, which is great if you want to put some cheese in there. All kinds of different things you can do with meatloaf. That's one of the things that's so great about it. It's kind of like the martini of the kitchen. There's a basic recipe, but there's so many variations, there's more than you could ever list. We'll throw these breadcrumbs in here. I've got about 3 cups for my meatloaf because I've got a lot of meat. These and the eggs will help bind everything together. And what we're going to wind up with here is a nice paste that will mix into the meat. Alright, we've got our paste mixed up here. It's about the consistency of thin cookie dough. That's the breadcrumbs, ketchup, and I actually added more ketchup. It's also the onions and eggs and everything else. We're just going to push that into the meat here. Alright, get it all in there. Oh, this bowl, lost a piece. Yeah, I grabbed that with my bare hands, but that's okay. I washed my hands. My family knows that I'm clean. So what we're going to do here is just mix this meat. Ooh, getting a little crazy. We're just going to mix the meat and the breadcrumbs and everything else together, let all those flavors combine. Make sure it's all nice and well mixed. This is going to make sure the meatloaf binds together really well. This is actually one of my favorite parts of it. Just mixing it all up with my hands and getting it in there. It smells great already. I got some really good ground chuck. I got a really good deal on it. I only paid about $3.59 a pound, which It's a lot more than I remember when I started cooking for paying for ground chuck, but still, it's a pretty good deal. So this whole 3-pound meatloaf, with everything I put into it, with $3.60 a pound of meat, the ingredients, the eggs and everything, I'm only spending about $14 on this thing, and it's going to feed a ton of people. It's going to feed me, it's going to feed my film guy, Captain Morgan, it's going to feed his dad, it's going to feed my girlfriend, it's even going to feed one of my buddies that lives down the street that doesn't like to cook. And there's going to be leftovers. I'll make meatloaf sandwiches for work tomorrow. It's going to be great. And you shouldn't have to mix it too much. You just want to get it all incorporated in there well. And you do want to break down the meat so it's not just the ground bits there. You want it to hold together really well. When you can go and take it and slap it in your hand and make a decent patty out of it, that's where you want it. Now we're going to go ahead and throw this into our loaf pans. I've got enough meat here that I can make 2 meatloafs actually. So what I'm going to do, yeah, I'm just going to throw it in like that. I'm going to throw it in, throw some in this one, that one. You want to get them about even because you're going to cook them at the same time. Just go ahead and form them into the pans. Press them down in there. And the only reason I do this is because it just makes them form up a lot better. Right? Nice uniform shape. Like I said, I like to make meatloaf sandwiches for work, so I want all the pieces to be uniform, bread shaped and sized. And it makes it cook a little bit more even. If you're just doing this by hand, maybe one side of your meatloaf is bigger than the other. You test the temperature in the middle and it says it's done, and then one side's a little bit pink. It's just not pleasant. This just helps to create a more uniform meatloaf. Alright. We've got these here. You can see them. Nice and packed in there. What I'm going to do now is pound them on my table just a little bit. That's going to make all the meat settle down. It's going to get rid of any air pockets. We'll do that with both of them. Now what I've got here is a large baking sheet with a smaller baking sheet inverted into it. You can see it's inverted. Meatloafs are going to sit on top of here, and all the grease is going to go down in this channel and underneath the pan. Now this is a ground chuck, so it's relatively lean. There's still going to be some grease that runs off it. You don't want the meatloaf cooking in there. It'll make the meat kind of loose, and you want something nice and firm that you cut into really good presentable slices. Now to get these out, I've got these aluminum pans. Just kind of pull on the sides a little bit, and then if I just pound it on the pan, it should pop right out. Maybe not. Sometimes you got to work them out. I like to just pull up on the sides a little bit and give them a gentle little shake. Voila, we have a nice looking loaf there. Pound this, give it a tap, and pull on the sides and kind of shake it out. And you can hear when it starts releasing, when the air starts getting under it. This one's being stubborn. You always get one. Alright, it's starting to come out. There we are, it's really nice looking. I'll kind of move that over a little bit. And if there's any imperfections, just reform them a little bit. I'm going to wash my hands real quick here, and then we're going to cover these in ketchup. Alright, we've got our 2 meatloafs here in our pans. What we're going to do now is we're going to cover them in ketchup. I like doing this so you don't have to add any extra ketchup. When it cooks, it creates a nice coating over it. Lots of good flavor in there, and it's really pretty too, just all the red. So we're going to go and lay about 1/3 of a cup of ketchup on the top of each of these. Don't be afraid to be generous. Now this is another point where you can change up the recipe. You could be putting barbecue sauce on it. Once again, you could be putting a marinara or pizza sauce on here. What I'm going to do right before these finish is I'm going to take some parsley and sprinkle it over the top. The green on top of the red plus that smell of parsley is really going to bring out something in the meatloaf. Make it a lot more presentable, make it look really attractive. I'm a big proponent of the idea that you eat with your eyes first. So if people think the food looks good, they're going to think it tastes good, even before they eat it. So everyone's going to enjoy the meal that much more. We'll just go ahead and rub these big slabs of meat down with the ketchup. That's nice. Yeah. Alright, we've got them coated here, and that's all you need. You can put more on there, you can put less on there. You don't even have to put that on there. Doesn't matter, it's up to you. This is meatloaf. Like I said, it's a very, very versatile dish. Now I've got my oven preheated to 350 degrees. I'm going to slide these in there. It's going to cook for an hour. We're looking for an internal temperature of 155 degrees. That's going to be medium well for ground beef. We're going to pull it out at 155, maybe 152, and then we'll let it rest for about 10 or 15 minutes. Let it finish cooking inside, then we'll cut it open, and we'll enjoy some of this. Alright, as you can see, we've got our meatloafs out of the oven. I pulled them out at about 153 degrees. We let them rest on top of the oven until they reached 165. Then I started cutting into them. I went and made some nice even 3/4 inch cuts. I pulled a few pieces onto my plate here. Let's go ahead and find out how they taste. Cuts into it nice and easy. They all held their shape really well. That's really good. That's really, really good. This is exactly what I was hoping for. Real nice, simple, basic meatloaf recipe. And as I said before, you can do all kinds of things with this. I'd recommend serving this with a potato, maybe mashed potatoes, some kind of green vegetable. Like I said before, this is a very inexpensive meal that's going to feed quite a few people. That's something you want to keep in mind. Food costs are rising, so you need to be a little bit more frugal with the money you're spending. Well, Andy your Gans, I hope you enjoyed this recipe. I really hope you make this meatloaf and it's something your family keeps making. As always, I have to give a shout out to Captain Morgan for his excellent video skills and his editing skills. Also like to thank him for his contribution into new computer equipment to improve our editing ability. And until next time, enjoy everything you cook.